businesses and time to start getting people back to work. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor is spearheading this movement. He joins us exclusively with the very latest. Mr. Leader, good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Neil, it's good to be on.
You know, we were just talking, to talk about something that's probably overdue here, but just the regulations alone on this health care law are prompting 1 out of 10 businesses to say, you know what, we're just going to dump health care for our workers, dump it on the government to handle, because the cost is one thing, the regulations, we don't need it. What do you want to do here?
Well, I mean, the purpose of the piece of legislation we have on the floor this week is to cut red tape, put a moratorium on regulation until the economy bounces back and unemployment nationally goes below 6%. I mean, as you suggest, Neil, it is just too hard right now for businesses to continue to operate given all the onerous and burdensome regulations coming out of Washington. And we want to make that stop so we can turn this country around and begin to be a startup country again. And that's the purpose here. I mean, we know that the Obama administration, over the course of its term, has imposed 400 regulations that impose more than $100 million of costs annually on the small businesses. And the Small Business Administration has said that there are so many regulatory burdens on small business, it costs them $10,000 per employee. Those are the kinds of things we want to stop right now so we can see more businesses start up and jobs created.
You know, it's one thing, Congressman, even to hope for freezing regulations. I guess we had 8 to 10 a day, and apparently ignorance is no defense. If you don't know these regulations, if you violate them, you could be in big trouble. But let's say you stop adding to them. That alone has prompted some of the Obama administration to come back and say, well, Republicans don't want to protect you with safe food. They don't want to protect you with safe drugs. How are you going to answer the predictable criticism that you're not looking out for folks, you're looking out for business interests?
But we are saying in cases of health and emergency, of course, any sensible policymaker would say, look, you've got to be able to address those. But right now, the pendulum has swung so far that it's very, very difficult to even conceive of starting up your business. And we want that to occur again, much less allowing for those who are operating businesses to keep the lights on and grow. And that's the purpose, Neil. I mean, you look at the last 3 years in this country, we've seen a 23% decline in the number of business startups. We in America are a startup country. We want to see that happen again.
You know, Congressman, I know you're trying to keep your eye on the ball here and not focus too much on politics, but it is interesting that much of the Democratic caucus has refused to kick in money to Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic effort to retake the House. It comes also at a time when many in the president's own party are opting out of going to his big convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, we're not connecting the dots, but connecting though we try. What do you make of what seems to be actual congressional troops on the ground who are telling Nancy Pelosi, I guess by extension the president, we're nervous?
Well, you know, you can't get away from the facts here. The facts are the president's policies have been instrumental to economic growth, have hurt job creation in districts and states across the country. And I do think that what we're seeing on the other side of the aisle is an unwillingness to let go of perhaps campaign funds that they believe will be necessary to defend against really the criticism of their votes and of their support of the Obama economic record. I mean, that's really what this election is going to turn on, is the fact that people want to see their economic future become brighter. They want to see life work for them again, and right now there's not a lot of optimism because of the lack of and failed leadership coming out of the White House.
We're also told by extension, Congress and the president is telling them, go ahead and do what you got to do. We think the trend is our friend. We think, and we just showed a poll of a national Real Clear Politics average that shows the president nominally ahead of Governor Romney. And oddly enough, in those swing states, improving, not across the board, not necessarily in Virginia, but enough that maybe it's the Republican governor phenomenon, whatever you want to say, but he is getting, he is the beneficiary of that trend. Now, who knows if that holds? November, as you've reminded me many times, is a long way away. But are you worried about that this very improving trend, at least in swing states, is working to the president's advantage?
You know, Neil, I can tell you, I come from arguably the most important swing state this election season, Virginia. And although our economy is doing better than most, when I go home to Richmond, I hear from small business owners, I hear from working families who say it is just too tough. Everyone knows somebody that is struggling. Most people know somebody who've lost a job. And when I talk to those small businessmen and women, they just want some relief. They want to know that they have a president or they have a Congress that actually will work alongside them.
Mitt Romney can win? I'm sorry, sir. Do you think Mitt Romney can win back Virginia?
I feel very good about our prospects in Virginia, both for Mitt Romney and George Allen.
The other issue I want to raise with you, this tax issue, as you know, all of these taxes expire, these Bush tax rates expire at the end of the year. The thinking seems to be, the president wants to let just those on the rich expire. Republicans have been arguing, renew them at least for another year, all of them, or there's no deal. Is it your sense, Congressman, that the election's going to decide this? Whoever wins a lame duck session will rule accordingly. In other words, if the president wins, he will push and likely get the top rate back to 39.6%. If Republicans win, all stay the same, renewed for another year. What do you think?
Well, first of all, next week, Neil, in the House, we're going to put a bill forward to make sure that we stop the tax hike and make sure that small business owners, working families do not experience a tax hike. And as you suggest, the president has been unwilling to go along with us. Harry Reid in the Senate says we shouldn't do that either. But instead, what they are doing, although they're saying they want to help small businesses and job growth, the president's tax proposal, we have seen, is going to hurt job creation. Ernst & Young was out with a study, I believe this week or last, which demonstrated that the president's tax hikes, which Harry Reid supports and is putting on the floor in the Senate this week, will actually cost this country 700,000 jobs. It will lessen economic output. So if we don't see the president and Harry Reid come our direction and insist on tax hikes, I think you're correct. I think the election is going to be dispositive on the tax issue. If Barack Obama wins, you'll see taxes go up. And if you see, if Mitt Romney wins,
this Democratic push, they're going to push a shutdown. They're going to push this to the wall, and that is, Democrats will say, we're not giving up on this tax hike for the rich, and if Republicans want to fight us on it, we're happy to fight that battle. What do you say to that?
Well, we all know that Patty Murray took to the Senate floor and basically said that she's willing to allow, to do anything she had to ensure that taxes go up. Now, again, that doesn't make a lot of sense if everyone around here and throughout the country says we ought to focus on job creation and helping small businesses. That's our point. But, Neil, to your point, I do think if Mitt Romney, I think he'll win this election, and once he wins this election, we'll now be able to move in a direction in which we say taxes are not going to go up, and instead we're going to go about tax reform, which is simplifying the code, make it more fair, fill the loopholes, and get Washington out of the business of picking winners and losers to the tax code.
Congressman, your colleague, House Budget Chief Paul Ryan, his name is the latest being floated about as a possible running mate for Mitt Romney. Some Democrats seized on that very quickly, salivating at the prospect of putting on the ticket a guy who has espoused, he says, reshaping and reforming Medicare, Social Security, and the like. Democrats say trashing those programs. They seem to be saying bring it on. What do you make of that? What do you make of the risk of a Ryan choice?
Well, listen, I've always been a huge supporter. He's a good friend of mine of Paul Ryan. And what Paul has done is put out a budget that basically spells out a solution to a problem. And that is, we all know the driver of our deficits disproportionately is the health care entitlements of Medicare and Medicaid. And we actually put a solution on the table through voting on the budget that came out of Paul's committee. And in fact, the president, Harry Reid, none of them, the Democrats have not put an answer to the problems on the table. And I think that is a critical part of this election, is the fact that we're going to, as a party, if Paul's on the ticket, with Mitt Romney, if not, we are, as a party, positing solutions to problems, whereas the Democrats really are victims of failed leadership. And I think that this president has demonstrated he's in over his head on the economy. He has not proposed a solution to try and fix the deficit. And this country really wants to see a brighter future. And that's what the election will turn on, and is why I think that Mitt Romney will win this election. And we're going to go about getting this country back on track and people back to work.
All right, Leader Cantor.